Is Toy Story the greatest animated movie franchise of all time? Let's talk about it. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. So with the release of Toy Story 5, it's time for my updated ranking of all 5 Toy Story movies. This is just going to be my personal ranking of the 5 Toy Story movies. So go ahead and drop yours in the comments down below, and of course hit that like button, subscribe to that notification bell, and be on the lookout for more Pixar videos coming very soon here to the channel. Without further ado, let's just dive in. In last place for me is going to be Toy Story 4. This movie came out in 2019, and I've kind of had an interesting up and down relationship with this one over the years, because when it first came out, I was pretty high on it. Then I watched it a few summers ago and it dropped for me. And now I'm kind of in the middle where I'm like, this is a solid movie. It's very well made. It just doesn't hit me as hard as the first 3 films. And it's the first one to follow up that trilogy, which I think all those movies are perfect. You kind of set yourself up for failure following that up, no matter what the movie is, right? My thing with this is it's always kind of been more of a Woody story than a Toy Story. And I've held that opinion and viewpoint for a long time now, even when I initially saw the movie. Andy is no longer in the picture, but Woody served his role in Andy's life. So this is about Woody's journey of self-discovery, the next chapter. What's next for him as a toy? He's not just sort of a caretaker for Andy, making sure Andy's all right. He's moved on. Andy's off to bigger and better things. So what's next for Woody? It presents almost an identity crisis for him and gets into sort of this philosophical idea of what makes a toy a toy. Forky's a character who's introduced here, plays into that conversation as well, but I think Forky can be borderline insufferable with just some of his annoying moments, and Woody constantly trying to ring him in, pull the reins on him, wrangle him, I guess you could say. So I just got a little fed up with that, and I don't want to go as far as to say Forky is like Jar Jar Binks level annoying, but in a sense, he's like the tamer version of Jar Jar for Pixar.
Musical Jar Jar Binks!
I also kind of wish we had more moments of the original gang of toys in this film. I feel like Buzz and Jessie especially take a back seat, where it's more about Woody, Bo Peep, and some of the other new toys that get introduced, like Duke Kaboom, Combat Carl, Ducky and Bunny, Gabby Gabby. And don't get me wrong, some of those characters are fascinating and add to the humor of the film. I was just missing the classic toy dynamic. But maybe because this is post-Andy, it makes sense that other toys are being introduced, and that happens in 5 as well. So while I think this movie is a step down when compared to the first 3, there are still glimpses of the magic, the nostalgia of the Toy Story franchise. It has a really emotional ending that pulls on those heartstrings, with Woody going his own way, saying goodbye to the toys. It was closure for him, even though he does come back in Toy Story 5, but they managed to have another ending. Like, this could have ended Toy Story just like how 3 could have ended. So was the movie wholly necessary? No, it wasn't. I know that's become a hotly debated topic online. 4 is not a necessary movie, but it does a lot for the character of Woody, and it's still a solid watch. It was never going to live up to the standard of 1 through 3, though, going in thinking that might have been harmful in the long run. At number 4 on my list, I've got the newly released Toy Story 5. Of course, I do think this is better than Toy Story 4. Main reason being, I was more emotionally moved by the main story, and because it came out in 2026, it had some pretty relevant commentary and themes about growing up as a kid today that pertain to parents and children. The main crux of the story is that technology is introduced into Bonnie's life, and all the kids her age are playing on their lily pads, which are basically iPads, and so everyone is glued to the screens, and they're not having this genuine human connection. So that causes issues, especially for the toys who want to get involved and don't want to lose their relevance. So the movie has a really timely message just about how, yes, technology is available in abundance, but does that make it the best thing? There's still nothing that really beats the value of true human connection and friendship. So it poses interesting questions for growing up as a kid in 2026, but also parenting a child. Then you got Jessie, who is like the emotional anchor of this story. Much like how Woody is the lead of 4, Jessie very clearly carries Toy Story 5. It's more of her story, and she gets some closure on past chapters of her own life. She goes on her own little solo mission throughout the movie, and so because of that, you get some awesome Jessie moments, but at the same time, you do lose out on that group dynamic, much like you do in Toy Story 4, where even Buzz and Woody kind of take a bit of a back seat here to Jessie. So if you go in expecting this to be vintage Toy Story in that sense, you might be a little disappointed, but I like the role Woody served. He's kind of like that veteran role player now. Instead of being the main man, the MVP player, he's taking a bit of a back seat, but they play into that, especially with the humor. He's aged, he's got the bald spot, he's put on a little bit of weight, so they play into it, and it certainly, with the animation style, makes for some humor. There's a subplot in this movie, way out of left field, and when the movie opens, if you haven't seen it as of watching this, you'd be like, what am I watching? It feels wonky. It feels like some sort of silly Pixar short film, but over the course of the movie, it justifies its existence, ultimately culminates to something important. But for a while there, I was just like, is this gonna add up to anything? Like, what are we doing here? Kind of embraced the absurdity of it all. The movie gets really silly at times, so it's one of the funnier Pixar films and Toy Story films, at least off the top of my head. And I really liked the art animation used when Bonnie was playing with the toys. It was so unique to see Bonnie's POV or perspective when she's playing with the toys. What is she envisioning? Much like, the opening of Toy Story 3 when we get this insane opening sequence with Ham showing up and dropping the monkey barrels that look like a nuclear explosion. That's what Andy's envisioning. Well, we get that with Bonnie, and the animation style there just really shines. The nostalgia's there. The movie manages to pull on the heartstrings with Jesse's story, and while the movie as a whole doesn't reach the heights of 1 through 3, I think it is a step up from Toy Story 4, and at this point, they might as well just give us a Bonnie trilogy with 4 through 6 and an Andy trilogy with 1 through 3 and call it a day. But I'm here for 6. Call me crazy. I was one of the people who said, I don't want 4, I don't want 5. But if they can continue to get us emotionally like this with vintage Pixar moments that make you cry and stories that apply to the current generation of kids, then they can probably do a lot with the 6th film. But from here on out, we got the Toy Story trilogy, and it's just a matter of how you rank them. I have all 3 movies rated at 5 stars. There are razor-thin margins between these films. It just comes down to personal preference. At number 3, I've got Toy Story 2, the sequel that elevates everything from the first, takes the franchise to new heights and new locations. We go to Al's Toy Barn, the apartment, the airport, so we're getting these new settings. The budget was certainly upped this time around, and the animation style even increases in that 4-year gap between Toy Story to Toy Story 2. We also get some new toys introduced to the gang here, with Jessie and Bullseye, 2 franchise best characters arguably, and Jessie's introduction is emotionally devastating. We get the whole backstory on how she was left behind and eventually donated by Emily. I like how themes from this film and emotional moments from Jessie's life come into play in the 5th film. There were some nice through lines there. And the movie overall tackles this idea of living in the moment, not wishing away the best of times, kind of serves as a reminder to find happiness in the everyday things that you can sometimes take for granted. Like when I rewatched the other day, I was like, this could be my favorite Toy Story on any given day. Like I think the trilogy is borderline interchangeable, and it is the best animated trilogy out there right now, I would say. 2 is a main part of that. It took the franchise to new heights after the first, which is more small scale. Speaking of Toy Story 1, that is my number 2, my runner-up, the one that started it all for Pixar that released in 1995. The only knock I guess I could have on this film is that the animation hasn't aged the best. Of course, Pixar now is blowing this animation out of the water. That kind of adds to the charm of the original Toy Story. It's a very simple movie, about an hour 20 runtime. You could watch this thing a few times in one day. But this OG Toy Story is just a wonderful tale about overcoming jealousy and finding friends in the unlikeliest of places. Randy Newman's soundtrack's kind of the cherry on top with multiple original songs that are still iconic years later. Sid is a terrifying Pixar villain, very disturbed individual, and I remember being creeped out by him even as a young kid watching this. But there's a reason that Toy Story has raised generations of kids at this point. It's because the story is so timeless. The franchise at large is as well, but this movie in particular is such a simple yet effective emotional story that kids could watch it in 1995, 2005, 2015, 2025, 10 years from now. They'll be able to watch it and still take away the same timeless themes and messages. And the originality of the concept as well still blows my mind. As a kid, we all wondered what our toys did, and it was because of Toy Story. What's going on with our toys when we're not around? Well, it's kind of playing into this idea of a childlike imagination and just running wild with it, creating this world that is so easy to fall in love with and buy into. Toy Story is a special franchise. A lot of that is due in part to the original film that is timeless all these years later. And the one thing I want from this is a screen-accurate Pizza Planet at a Disney park. I know they have one, I believe, in Disneyland, but I want them to make a screen-accurate Pizza Planet all the way down to the claw machine, all the way down to the alien slime drinks. I need that in my life, okay? But the top dog of the Toy Story franchise, my number 1 movie, is Toy Story 3. Best Picture nominated Toy Story 3, that is. This is one of my top tier Pixar movies because of its powerful message about change. It's a very scary thing we all have to go through at some point in life, but it's necessary and we have to learn to embrace it for the overall betterment of our lives at the end of the day. It's something you gotta get over. It's a speed bump, but ultimately you have to take that leap of faith, and Toy Story 3 teaches us that. The end of the film never fails to get the tears rolling for me. Every single time I watch it, I choke up, I tear up. Andy gets to play with the toys one last time before passing the torch onto Bonnie, passing on the toys to a new generation. So long, partner. Oh, it rips my heart out every single time. But the movie itself also explores new settings, new territory for Toy Story with the Sunnyside Daycare. It gives us Lotso in a whole new batch of toys. Lotso being a very understood antagonist. He has a devastating, tragic backstory, and he took a dark turn with it, becoming this leader of Sunnyside Daycare and terrorizing all these other toys. It's a cinematic achievement, frankly, that Toy Story 3 pulls off a full-on prison break sequence at Sunnyside. And I mentioned how Toy Story 5 has some great humor. 3 probably tops that. You got Spanish Buzz, Ken and Barbie, a lot of other moments that stand out. It's a very funny Toy Story movie. But most importantly, it delivers all the closure we need between Andy and the toys. At some point, we all have to move on to the next chapter in life, and Toy Story 3 serves as a perfect reminder of that. I think emotionally speaking, Toy Story 3 is the end of a very important journey for all the toys and Andy. Andy went to college. He's on a new path in life. The toys are now passed on to Bonnie. Toy Story 3 is magnificent. I adore it. I believe it is the strongest film out of the 5 Toy Story movies. But how do you rank the Toy Story films? Let me know in the comments down below. Where does 5 rank? How do you feel about the divisive 4? Let me know down below. Hit that like button, subscribe to that notification bell, and be on the lookout for more Pixar videos coming very soon. But thank you guys, as always, for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.